Okay, so I got up at 4:45 this morning, and I went to bed early too, but I can't I can't do the 5 a.m. thing. It's not helpful anymore. It was good last year. It was what I needed, and I learned a lot from it, but it's just not smart. Like, there's no reason why getting up at 5 a.m. is better for me than getting up at 6. And it makes me so much less able to socialize with people because I'm cutting off an hour on each end, and it's just like pushing it for the sake of pushing it rather than actually getting something new. Um, Another fun thing that happened this morning is like I'm having this weird like warm pain in my back, and I'm feeling old as heck. So I'm thinking about just going back to bed for another hour and then going and doing my workout, and then I'll reorient my schedule so that I'm getting up just a little bit later. That way it's actually sustainable long term. So that's my initial thoughts. Yeah, it's not good right now. I was gonna go back to bed, but it hurt too bad, honestly. So I got up and I'm currently icing my back. It's not terrible. Like, I know it's not a spinal injury, and I know it's just the muscles, but um, I was thinking through it when I went to try to go back to bed, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things right now. So one is the thing I was talking about yesterday with my tendency to grit down and be like, I'm gonna push even harder, even though there's signs that say I should stop. Um, Paired with me being a little impatient, a lot of impatient to getting progress. It's really disappointing. I was like, oh, I'm gonna vlog my progress on this project. That way, we can show how awesome I do on it. But I think it's almost more important that I've messed up so early on, because if nothing else, I can show other people how to bounce back from mistakes. It honestly makes me want to just throw the whole thing out and start over another week when everything's perfect, right? But I think this is more important. Um, Along with that, I think there's a lot of wisdom in learning from and leaning into discomfort. But if that discomfort is pain, if that discomfort isn't just you feeling the friction of trying to do something you've never done before, then that's the time to reconsider, pause, and reconsider. Are you doing these things because you um, want the ideal outcome that's sustainable? You want to feel better. You want to, what were some of my goals going into this? It wasn't to keep a rigid workout schedule that ruined my life. It was to be intentional about how I spend this time so that I can maximize it, so that I have more to give at school, so that I have more energy. And it's more than just the workouts, like that's in general. I think when we get overworking, we lose sight of what the goal of working is. We lose sight of what the purpose of our work is, which is to benefit the other aspects of our lives. If it becomes the only aspect that matters, then I think it's time to pause and rethink, because while you can't see it, you have probably pulled a muscle in your brain somewhere. Um, that's a really weird way to say that, but basically, there's balance to everything, and it's not about being the most X, Y, or Z. It's about being the most in balance, so that when you do make those decisions, they're from a place, like decisions meaning like where you work and how you spend your time and all those things that you might not even think of as decisions sometimes. Um, when you make those decisions, you're making them from a place of peace and not out of fear of the outcome. So that's my random 5 a.m. thoughts. So I do have an issue with how much we romanticize working hard. That is talking more about the people that are ignoring their body's needs for the sake of maintaining one particular outcome, or trying to get one particular outcome. We see this with stuff like The Biggest Loser. Like, they're literally being rewarded for ignoring like any signs of sustainable growth. Um, and then there's people that are like really famous for completely ignoring their bodies messages saying like, hey, you probably shouldn't do this. We think they're superhuman for going these insane distances. Meanwhile, they're literally risking their lives to, for what? I mean, I understand the feeling. I understand the desire to do something different and do something exceptional and to push past your body's limits. But I think that in the long term, that's extremely unwise. And I also think it's extremely damaging that we romanticize these people so much and admire them, because it places this insane expectation, even non-verbally, that this is a standard for not only excellence, but health and well-being. Where in reality, those people ignoring their body's needs, pushing them past the limits, it's not sustainable long term. So it shouldn't be, like, to me, it's so much harder to maintain balance than it is to go on extremes. Like, it's not that hard to ignore your body. It's really not. It's hard to stop when you have this idea in your head of what success looks like. When I chose to do these vlogs and chose to start on this project, I had a very rigid idea of what that would look like. So I think it's really good that I'm breaking that up, and it's really good that I'm having the setback. And I guess the difference between like diligence and overdoing it is that when you have a diligent goal, you're okay with the process being slow and gentle and you're okay with taking your time, because even though you're going to get the outcome that you want, it's how you get it that doesn't matter. When you have an overly rigid outcome expectation for how you're going to perform in a situation, it makes it really hard to show up and perform, because even with these videos, I'm like, my expectations are like top video people that have been doing this for years. Like, I'm comparing myself to them rather than allowing myself to suck at it because I've never done it before, and have a morning groggy voice because I just woke up, and not have the best filming equipment, not have the best gym access, not have all these things that like other people have that are doing similar videos. So I guess like being gentle with yourself throughout this process, especially in setbacks, is really, really important if you want to actually change, if you want to actually overcome difficulty. It's so important to be your own friend, because I'm with myself, I can be very much like a fair weather friend. I will be a friend to you if you're acting this, then this, and I'll be your friend if you're performing the way I expect you to, and you're showing up the way I expect you to. But the reality is, while we disappoint ourselves the most often, we also show up for ourselves the most often. And so I think it's really, really important to be gentle and supportive like you would with your friends when you're doing something that's new and hard. So with the workout schedule, it's supposed to be like upper body workout today too. So we're just not doing it. We're just going to take a day off and rest, then come back stronger when and as soon as possible. I'm going to make myself some breakfast, read the newspaper, and probably do some gentle stretching because my shoulders have been really tight, and hopefully I can get to doing like a mindfulness exercise so that I can kind of breathe through this pain that I'm experiencing. I think we have these really rigid ideas of success that feel very extreme, and when we go to try and figure out what success looks like socially, we find the most like successful externally people, and we ask them how to succeed, and we ask them what success looks like, and we hold them to this insane standard. Meanwhile, their success is dependent on the success that they've had in other areas. Like, I think if you have finances to back up going to the gym a lot or other things that you have this idealized lifestyle, you have to have the finances to back that up. So for me right now, like, I don't have the finances to back up like overly beautifying my life. So I think rather than looking to what society, like, I hate saying society, what we think other people will say success looks like, what other people would say success is, we should look at ourselves and say, is this working for where I am right now? And is this the solution that I can maintain in the long run? When we ask ourselves those questions, that frees us from those, honestly, kind of frees us from the system, if you not to get too, big on it, but, it frees us from those ideas that success can only look one way, because their success just isn't realistic or practical, and it wouldn't be success in this situation. So I think we really need to be more relative in terms of how we measure growth and how we measure success, and be really kind to yourself. There's nothing, you're never going to grow faster just by being cruel. You're never going to be happy if you're always just being critiquing. So that's my thoughts right now. But when we get too overly rigid about what is allowable and what isn't, and we only allow ourselves a few things that aren't even necessarily the best on their own, then I think we've really lost sight of the point. And I think the focus should be less on cutting things out of our diet and more on adding things in that are beneficial to us. I just got back from school. I walked there and I walked here. It was kind of a mistake though, because I still have that back sprain and I was carrying a very full backpack, fuller than I normally do. And my back is not happy with me. Sorry for the background noise. I'm heating up some water for some tea. I am feeling very, not exactly overwhelmed, but kind of, I know which direction I'm going. I'm just worried that I'm getting too caught up in the romanticizing this process. I think it's a dangerous place to be when we fall in love with the idea of something and forget that the reality of it requires a whole lot of work. The reality is, if I have all these aspirational dreams, there's going to be some very dull days, and there are going to be some very lonely days. And I have to accept that as a reality, not as something that will happen if in some alternate world where things are difficult. Things are difficult here. And I have been I've been starting to tell people more about what I'm thinking of doing long term and showing them out my career planning board, as well as talking about the companies that I want to work for. It's very difficult to be so aspirational, and there's a Stoic quote about this. It's when you dare to hope, you were going to fear. And so I'm not sure how that works with I know a lot of this stuff is going to require chance, but I want to make my chances as good as possible. So I'm working really hard on the small, everyday stuff so that I can be the kind of person that can be in that role someday and not worry so much about the job happening to me. I want to prepare for it rather than just plan. So I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, and I wanted to just check in and say, I am surviving at the moment. I feel so out of it lately, but I think that's just the symptom of this, I talked about this morning, this kind of all or nothing extreme view of I have to be rigid with 5 a.m. every day or I'm failing at this thing, strict bedtime, strict this, and this. I think that really closes the door for the beauty and the nuance of in-betweens, and I have felt worse these past couple days than I have in a long time. And so that's saying something about how unsustainable
this idea I had about like we're gonna eat only healthy food and we're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and all these things that are good in moderation but taken to an extreme, just like the other side, are not helpful. And as much as people will be like, oh, I'm doing that and it feels great for me, good for you, good for you. Just be careful that you're not just telling yourself that because you want it to be true. I've been in a much more extreme, like, here's what I'm going to do position than I am now, but it's still like something I'm conscious of. Like, am I being extreme with this? What are the games that I'm playing and what are the winning conditions? And if the winning conditions are so strict that anything that deviates from exactly waking up at 4:45, exercising at 5, sleeping at 9, all of those things are okay. But if they're cutting me off from social connection, if they're making me less happy and healthy, then I'm doing them for the wrong reasons, which is so that other people think I'm super intense and strict with myself. I don't really want to live that kind of life. I want this process to be enjoyable. So I'm changing the process to be more realistic and more enjoyable for what I want to do. In the long run, I don't want to be what I want to do isn't wake up at 5 a.m. every day. It's, get a good job. It's make an impact on the world. It's not, it requires some of that. It requires diligence. It requires self-sacrifice, but anything good does. But you also have to survive. So if you're demanding so much from yourself in every single area, then I would definitely take a pause and rethink why are you doing what you're doing. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm rethinking things a little bit. I'm saying, okay, what of this is useful and what of this is just things that I think I should be doing to be successful. So I'm going to drink some tea, take a little break because taking breaks is important for productivity, and I'm going to think through what I want to do this afternoon, and then I'm going to do it. So, sounds good. So my back is really hurting. I am still going to try and get my work done, but I'm going to ice it, and I'm going to I need to rest this afternoon, evening, hardcore, like full stop. I can't keep doing this to myself. So we're going to rest, and then, but yeah, get my stuff done first. That way I can rest without feeling the need to do anything else. I know it's because I didn't rest a whole lot this weekend, and I also injured myself. So I need to stop having these rigid, like, I still expect the peak possible performance in some of the worst environments. Like, you have to adapt your expectations or you will not be able to adjust to the environment that you're in. And I have to just do the best I can right now with what I have right now, instead of thinking that I need to do the best that I could do if I was feeling my best, if I was well rested, if I wasn't burnt out from a full semester. I need to be slower with this and gentler with this. I'm glad I went for the walk today. I'm glad I walked back from school, but usually it's a nice clearing my head time, and all I was thinking was my back hurts and I shouldn't have done this to myself. So that's a sign that I am at a point where I need to slow the heck down or I'm gonna crash and burn.
Wait, this is as close as we'll get.
There we go. Just a couple thoughts I wanted to share before the end of the night. It's around 9 p.m. now. I pretty much had a chill rest of the evening. I needed to just take it a little slower. Didn't get a whole lot of work done. Just rested. I talked to my roommates, got to actually hear about their breaks. We got a package from one of the roommates' moms, sent us like a box of a bunch of snacks and chocolates for a Christmas present. And I had a couple of thoughts with a conversation I had with one of my roommates. I'm trying to work on not oversharing so much with people, especially with people that aren't the right people to share with. So I asked her to hold me accountable to that and asked her to call me out on stuff. And she said that I need to be better about asking people about their lives, which is something I'm already feeling really guilty about, because she told me the day she was leaving for Thanksgiving break that she was going to go on this trip with her boyfriend, and I felt like the worst friend in the world, and So her pointing that out, I wasn't too surprised by that, but then I think I feel really what I'm really ashamed of is my initial response, which was to try to defend myself, which is of course we don't want. So yep.
We're in full problem solving mode right now.